get up there, I get lunch in New Hampshire. I'm too close to New Hampshire. What's that? I'm up there.
Doesn't mean anything.
They have all the spots.
You're gonna post it on this letter. You're gonna post it.
That's why I don't want to swallow.
Posting.
I'm take 101 with the truck route the other way.
I will send you something tomorrow.
Okay, today is Tuesday, November 15th, 6 o'clock. We're at the Charlton Board of Health meeting. All members are present, as well as Health Director Jim Philbrook. For scheduled appointments today, first on the list, we have Mr. Gary Magnuson from CMG Environmental. And Gary, it's been a couple of weeks. If you want to bring us up to speed, start with where you would like, and I know you have a memo for us.
Yes. So I did prepare a memo that anybody in the audience can see it. The Board of Health has an electronic copy. I believe it's been 4 weeks or 3 weeks. Interesting side note, I think that the non-specified PRP and the dates just seem to fall that, it seems like 1 or 2 days before these meetings, the DEP website just gets barraged with information. I check it about once a week in between meetings to download the information and keep on track of things, and a lot happened in the last 2 weeks. So I'll kind of go through this memo, kind of the way I have in the past, more globally, and if there's specific questions, we can talk about them, but just to bring everybody up to speed globally. So the first item, the non-specified PRP submitted a phase 1 initial site investigation and tier classification report to DEP in accordance with the regulatory requirement. 1 year from notification of this issue, the MCP, the Massachusetts Contingency Plan, requires that a phase 1 report be submitted. The phase 1 report is a culmination of all the information that they've collected to date, and the phase 1 has to have a conclusion, and that conclusion is they need to do more work to fully answer the questions or close the site out within DEP, or they have enough information and they can close it out. Obviously here the conclusions are that more work needs to be done. Associated with that phase 1 is what's called a tier classification. The site is classified based on a bunch of criteria, and this site happens to meet a tier 1 classification, which is the highest priority, obviously, because of drinking water issues and everything else. No surprises there. The report is available for anybody to read on DEP's website. It's a lot more of the same tone of, we don't believe the landfill is the source. There's not a ton of new information in it. Again, it's a culmination of all the information that's been collected to date. The most useful component that I believe of this phase 1 is they're required to provide a phase 2 scope of work, which defines what they're going to do going forward. And again, I'll give credit where credit's due. It's a pretty well-defined scope of work. It includes 8 specific tasks with triggers for each task and what's going to be done. Many of those tasks do address some of DEP concerns, assuming they all get addressed. So that's kind of my second, actually that's my 4th bullet, but let me go back up to the 2nd bullet. In a phase 1 report, one of the MCP requirements is to define the disposal site. DEP defines a disposal site as the area where contamination associated with a release is found. The disposal site has nothing to do with property boundaries. It has nothing to do with municipal boundaries, anything like that. You can even go across state lines. So the disposal site is from the source of the contamination, essentially to the end of the contamination, as best known at that point in time. Understanding, don't take this negatively, we're only a year into the project. There might be more information that says it's bigger or smaller. So in this report, the disposal site boundary is defined as H-foot road only, from approximately 58 to 93 H-foot road, and it's a polygon. It's a closed polygon that does not include the landfill. So that's what's there. We can talk about that if you guys want. But there is a disposal site boundary. That's a closed polygon that includes the homes from 58 to 93 H-foot road, essentially. And I can show anybody copies if they want it here.
Gary, how do they define those boundaries?
They use the
What's
phase.
the criteria for defining that boundary?
They use a pretty detailed analysis in this phase one report of analytical data from residential properties, sample on H-foot Road and Eleanor and all the properties, and they've highlighted the areas that have detections above standards, and they've defined that as the disposal site.
How does that exclude the landfill?
That's what their opinion is.
Amazing.
Yeah, so, obviously, I said, my comment is, the disposal site boundary as depicted does not include a portion of the landfill. This appears to be an error, as 1,4-dioxin has been detected in multiple locations in the landfill, including the irrigation well, not to mention the other contaminants concerned that have been found in the landfill. We'll talk about that further, we'll talk with DEP about that, but that's what's here, and I'm reporting today what's here. I don't know how, I do know how they came up with it, it explains how they came up with it. Whether or not people agree with it, that's a different discussion. DEP has already commented more than once that the monitoring well network in the landfill does not appear adequate to assess the landfill as a potential source, and that ties right back into the disposal site boundary. DEP said, we don't think you have enough wells in the right places at the right proximity to fully evaluate this. In the phase two scope of work, they do propose more work to do those things. So coming forward, we should get those answers. Regarding the phase two scope of work and timing, tasks 3 through 8 relate to expanding the deep monitoring well network, better determining the extent of 1,4-dioxin. Some of that work is scheduled to start in late 2016, and some of it is 2017. And results from that work are going to take a while, at least a year before we see anything conclusive, I would expect, based on the schedule that they've laid out for that work. Of other interest, another document that was submitted is, so the non-specified PRP conducted an inspection of the parcel at 62A15 owned by Mr. Paul Fox Jr., the Fox property, on October 7th. In a memorandum dated November 7th, 2016, the non-specified PRP documented their October 7th inspection and conclude, and I'll read verbatim what they concluded. We believe the presence of the analytes on the Fox property is a significant finding regarding potential source of groundwater contamination in the H-foot road area, and that these findings warrant additional investigation and review by Mass DEP and the Town of Charlton Board of Health. DEP was on the Fox property, collected a sample of the drum of presumed asphalt coating, concrete coating, and that drum had PCE in it. They believe that that PCE is the possible source of the chlorinated solvents found on H-foot Road. And they say that. There's a memo, again, it's available for anybody to review. In this memo, they're asking for access to the Fox property to do some shallow and deep drilling to evaluate if this is factual or not factual. That's a significant new finding in a new document. We talked about this last time, all residential wells within 500 feet of confirmed detection to be tested monthly. That is still ongoing. I have not heard that that's going to stop. I've seen a request from the LSP stating that they think it's excessive and they don't believe the monthly monitoring is required. They said they were going to do it through, I believe, November. But DEP said you have to do it. So until DEP says you don't have to do it, we should continue to assume that the monthly monitoring of those homes will be done. The POET systems, based on information, again, that I reviewed, and I think we might be missing one, 65, 66, 70, 75, 77, 85, 89, and 90 have systems installed that are all functioning.
81.
Yeah, I don't have that in the,
81 does.
for some reason, it's not in the document. I thought there was another one missing. And the ones that are being watched, again, from the document are 54, 74, and 93. The bottled water provision and the courtesy bottled water hasn't changed. I think there was one addition about 3 weeks ago.
I sent it to George here.
Um,
Right away.
81 is missing there too, Gary.
Okay. Again, I'm trying to pull it from information that I have here. I don't believe 81 was referenced in the phase 1 report, that's why, but I'll double check it. And the last significant document that came out is Mass DEP issued a determination of administrative completeness for the new site assignment in Southbridge to the Southbridge Recycling and Disposal Park, Inc. on November 14th, yesterday. Public comment period is 21 days. I don't know if that's up on the DEP website yet. I got a copy through you.
I hadn't checked, I just received it last night.
So just to talk about this briefly, there's a site suitability report for new site assignment for the landfill operations. There was a notice of deficiency. They didn't have all the appropriate documents. Additional documents were submitted. So this document says that it's now administratively complete, so that all the parts are in place. Now we'll go to technical review. It doesn't say, this doesn't say that DEP agrees with it or disagrees with it. It just says all the parts are there, so now the time clock can start for the technical review. There is a 21-day public comment period from the date it's posted in the papers. So, assuming it was posted yesterday, which I don't think it was, it's 21 days, but we'll get the exact date, and I presume this board will provide some comment. That's a lot of information, but that's what I have. Any questions from the board or
Yeah,
others?
I do, Gary. One you just answered, the way I determined, well, the way I read it was, once it's publicly noticed, then it was the 21 days. So I don't know if that started last night with us or when.
I think it's when it goes into the newspaper.
That's how I read
How are
it.
we gonna know?
Yeah.
Following
When that-
receipt of proof of publication, the notice and commencement review period. So, following receipt of proof of publication, so that would lead me to believe that DEP has to have a copy. So, conservatively, we should think of 21 days from today, but we'll get the exact date.
Well, it talked about certified mail, so that would be the receipts that they're
That's
talking
it.
about. Yeah, so, anyways, well, yeah, public in, if it was, they hand deliver like the public, certified mail, I think that might fall under that. Gary, we were talking about the boundary, how it didn't include the landfill itself with the, shape. So you said you had some comments, like why doesn't it include the landfill? How and when do you address that to DEP? Is that just ongoing back and forth, or do we have to write something formal on that?
I can send an email. So the phase 1 report doesn't necessarily require any DEP comment. However, DEP has provided review and comment on almost every document that's been submitting on this. Each time a status report is submitted, DEP has provided some comment. So I think there may be some comment
Okay.
to this. I think it's prudent that we, board, there's two things we can do. We can go through and nitpick this document to death and provide 17 or 57 comments.
Yep.
Or we can provide a couple of bigger comments. I think that is prudent at this point. the two things that I believe are significantly missing there is, one, I think the disposal site boundary is inaccurate. And two, I think the discussion of contaminants of concern not being found in the landfill is inaccurate. And I think it's an issue of wording, how the sentences are worded, but in reality, and I have to check again, but most of those contaminants that have been found in the wells, drinking water wells, have been detected at least once somewhere within the landfill. Most, I need to validate all those things, and I know John has looked at that a million times. So those are the two big concerns. So with direction from you guys, I'll do something as simple as an email to Kevin Doust and Mark Rowley, just saying, you know, I think we need to point out the fact that the disposal site boundary seems inappropriate.
My 2 cents is, I know Kevin probably feels the same way, but I'd rather not assume, and let's throw it out there anyways, just to let them know that we're reading documents too. Just, you know, John, what do you?
I agree.
I will do that, I'll CC the board.
So, I'm not saying nitpick it with the 17 or 57, I'm saying let's mention those 2 kind of bigger points.
I will do that.
Is it just the boundary, or was there something?
The boundary, and then the whole issue of contaminants of concern.
Right.
The 6 contaminants of concern that are found in H-Foot Road. There's a continual tone in all the documents that those have never been found in the landfill.
Did you get clarification on that as well?
Yeah, yes, I think I'll ask that question, say it's a concern.
And then also, Gary, the schedule of the deep wells. I just want to get you said, you know, sounds like you're going to be into it for another year with that, the way the schedule is laid out. So that schedule, is that laid out by Casella as far as what their intentions are? And does
It
that
is.
get approved or denied by DEP, or does it get basically accepted and said, okay, there's a schedule you have? But how does that work? What if, I mean, what, you know, could they say, well, here's the schedule of events and drag it out 5 years? What, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
they have, 5 years to complete the project,
Mhm.
so to close it up. The first one, and the first thing that they want to deal with is the Fox property.
Mhm.
Because again, their thoughts are that that's a potential source, which, again, I'll give credit where credit's due. The objective is always to have a conceptual site model and keep evaluating the hypothesis. There's been discussions that there's other potential sources. They have some information that suggests there's another potential source. You should investigate that. That's fine. That is their first priority. They want to do that right away. And then further deal with signature of chemicals, expand the monitoring well network. But the deep wells, they're saying somewhere in 2017. But it also says following results from another task. So this schedule, there's a couple things that come into play with this schedule. The scope of work is put together for 2 reasons. One, to address the phase 1 and the MCP requirements. It's also put together to address the concerns that DEP has relative to site assignment. Because for site assignment, as we all heard 2 months ago now, DEP's comment that the site has not been fully assessed. There hasn't been a clear plan for how to deal with remediation. There hasn't been a clear plan on how to reduce potential contamination or stop the plume. All those things tie into this scope of work, which all tie into the expansion scope of work. So the MCP scope of work, they can take as long as they want. But I think they have to do a lot of that work before they're gonna answer the questions that DEP has asked them to answer under the proposed expansion. So, but as far as DEP saying, no, you must do this right away, I don't believe there is a requirement that DEP says you must do this right away. They spelled out a scope, it's logical, it's reasonable, I think it's stepwise. I don't have a huge problem with what they spelled out. But DEP may ask them to do certain things sooner, because DEP has clearly said that the monitoring well network is not sufficient to appropriately evaluate contaminant from the landfill, contamination sources from the landfill. And some of the tasks that are gonna answer that are 6, 7, and 8 at the end of their
All right.
scope.
Willie, you got anything?
No,
John?
at the end of this discussion, if we're talking about, I just wanted to bring up a couple of things about the landfill. If we're at that point, I can do it now. If not, if Gary has something else, or the folks here have something else.
Okay, you got the floor.
Okay. We all know that the water that Casella and the Southbridge landfill is probably polluting, is gonna be ongoing for years, in all probability. But what I don't think this board is addressing, what these people keep coming through, and I just got an email again today, the odors, and of course the noise. You're hearing noise in your house, you've got odors outside, inside. And there certainly are laws, rules, regulations that can be enforced. I know that they're taking some plans to mitigate to a degree. But if anybody follows the news, you'll remember that earlier this year in Northbridge, there was a proposal for a food reclamation plant that was going to be put in Northbridge. And the zoning enforcement officer said no. And you know what he did? He went out to another site where they had one of these, and he said the odor would be too bad. So he just shut it down before it was ever built. Here we've got a situation where, especially in the summer, a lot of these, there's 62 houses or so that are experiencing the odors to some degree. And these ones today, I mean, 3 to 5, depending on who you believe, 5 if you're one of the homeowners, 3 if you're one of the Casella people that were sent out. I mean, rotten garbage inside your house. It's just, to me, there's gotta be something that can be done, other than just making a complaint and then it goes into a file somewhere. I mean, we've got a track record here that goes back months, years, and there's laws out there. Absolute nuisances, qualified nuisances. I'll get some more information for you if you want. I'll bring it in. And yes, Jim.
This has been discussed as far as the nuisance and the 58 conditions, just with a meeting that we had with Mary Jude Pigsley, as far as, and we are forwarding this office a spreadsheet of all the complaints, whether it's noise or odor, directly to the DEP, and they had been on site maybe a few weeks ago, Mary Jude herself, to do an inspection of the site for potential hazards. So the DEP is acting on it, and they're getting updates from us as well as from, so as soon as I get them from anybody, I send them directly and put them on the list, and then we give them to Mary Jude Pigsley as they're updated.
As well, on that site visit from DEP with Mary Jude,
Yes.
her partner, whoever was with her, confirmed the smell.
He did.
So it's not he said, she said.
And I just
It was
received today that
DEP acknowledges, hey,
Right.
this was.
under this section, the odor complaint logs, which they have to file, I have the ones that were filed in October here. So if you want to look at them.
I saw
And this
them.
comes, yeah, I did
saw
send
them
it to you today.
Yeah, I
so-
saw it. Part of the reason for bringing it up, because
You're right,
if it's not getting any better, these people shouldn't have to live with it.
When
they
she
moved
came
in-
yesterday, she told me, because I said, so what's the verdict? And she said, I would say it's a 3. She
Yeah, I
put a
did see
2
that.
on the
She
report.
put a 2 on the report.
And then I emailed her and I said, well, you told me it was a 3, why did you put a 2 on the report? And she said, oh, that was my verbal mistake. I was gonna respond with some sarcasm, and I just said, zip it up, you know?
So Mary Jude also, I don't know how to say it, eluded, whether that's the right way to say it or not, that there was some type of action going to be happening on
Yes.
the smell, on the odor.
Yeah.
She said that several times. I can't tell you what's gonna happen, but, and she kept beating around the bush, if you will. So 2 months ago, I haven't seen any enforcement, I haven't seen any action on that
No.
either, so.
And she did state to that it was very important that if I could forward those, because they're more collected and more organized than what she would have, but she would be taking, like you said, there will be action taken on these. They're not just being accepted, and not like you said, what's happening? Are they just logging these? Yeah, you complain. She said she takes them very, very serious.
What I think makes it challenging for the process is because the smell itself coincides with the heat. So right now, it's not as hot, less complaints, less squeaky wheel, and it kind of gets put on the back burner. And then it gets hot and the people have the problem, everybody starts complaining, and now it's almost like it has to take a few complaints to get the ball rolling again. And then by the time the ball gets rolling, you know what I mean? I think that doesn't help anything, you know?
Well, I think they have a responsibility to do daily cover,
Mm.
make sure there's nothing exposed so you don't get odors, and if they're working on an active cell, that they're checking wind directions and the misters are in operation, and that is reflected in their reports. But if you're smelling it, like you said before, and you shouldn't be smelling it, they're supposed to take appropriate measures to, I think they changed the misters last time I was up there from cherry to a different, I wouldn't say flavor, but a different smell. So that, because someone didn't like the cherry, but I think that the DEP, and certainly I did explain to Kathy that I do get those. And I made a call today on your complaint and did speak to Tracy about that. And she's gonna follow up on it and get back to me.
The gal, when she came yesterday, the noise was very loud. When she came last week, she stood out by the road in the beginning of the drive. I don't live out by the road, I live further in, you know? And she said that the noise, the beeping noise was very, very faint. Well, it was very loud yesterday, along with the smell, even though my call was about the odor. And I said, can you hear the machinery now? I said, you can't tell me that that is faint. My 5-year-old granddaughter was going, what is all that beeping and what's that banging noise? And she said, well, I don't really know where that's coming from. And I said, what do you mean you don't know where it's coming from? The only thing that's back there is the landfill. However, in the report, did you happen to notice that they blamed it on the
Town of
equipment?
Town of Southbridge equipment, yeah, I saw that.
But they weren't working at that time yesterday. They stopped, I think, at 3 o'clock. Yeah,
Well, you can also, if you have a complaint, and simultaneously give me a call,
yeah,
and I'll see if I can respond and get there before them to do an assessment myself.
yeah.
Okay?
Mhm.
Matt, I don't think that the smell is getting less during winter time.
It's
You're
not.
right.
I think that it's, I can say personally, I'm not making calls.
Mm,
I can smell it, but I'm not making calls because they don't do a damn thing about it.
yeah,
You know, it gets to the point, like, what are you gonna do? Pick up the phone every single day?
right.
I got a business to run just like you. I don't have the time to sit there, answer questions, wait for people to come. It's been awful. It's been awful constantly, and I haven't made a single call.
I know they talked about something gonna happen with all that, and I haven't seen anything as far as DEP, so I don't know. I don't know what the action is on their side, but we certainly haven't heard anything. John, did you have anything else?
I'll make a call if the board would like me to ask where she's at with all the complaints we're getting.
Let's get an update.
Yeah,
Give an update.
look at that.
John, did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, Mary Jude also said the expansions were all on hold, and we know that's not true, or she wasn't informed. So she said there's going to be an enforcement action, and like you said, 2 months go by, there's nothing.
Mm.
I'm with John looking into what actions you guys can take as a board, and I think he should investigate further on what the board can do, not what DEP can do, or what they're not doing, to see what actions either zoning or the Board of Health can do for our town.
Yeah, that was my next. Jim, have we heard any official documents from zoning?
I talked to Robin, she said that it's with legal,
Mm-hmm.
and until legal releases it, she will not comment on it.
Still pending.
Still
How long has it been with legal? Do we know? How many weeks?
It's been pretty much since the, that meeting with DEP. It came in like a week or
Three
two
weeks,
after that.
Maybe a month. So I don't know, but she does not have it back yet.
Which tells me that there's some backdoor negotiations potential. I mean, it's
To me, it
it's
sounds
cut
like.
and dry. I mean, if they're in there illegally and it's not zoned for that.
I couldn't comment.
I'm
'cause I have
not
no
trying to put
idea.
words in your mouth. It's
I
just
know
one-
nothing, all I know is I ask her a lot, and I can tell she will let me know when she knows.
I mean, it's, backdoor, I don't know about that. I would say they're being thorough
Yes.
in the plan review or whatever.
Well, it's also the largest landfill in the state too. The last thing they're gonna do is easily just let somebody go in and shut it down. But same.
I don't think that Robin is leaning towards, I
No.
think she's gonna do strict and,
It's with Cogsgrove, isn't it?
it's with James Cosgrove, was taken from the third-party independent zoning officer, who I went with and just walked around. He wanted no input from anybody, made his own assessment. When the report came back, it was sent to legal. James Cosgrove, who represents the town of Charlton, has no vested interest in anything else but representing Charlton, and she has not gotten it back from him. So there is no, nothing shady going on there, believe me. It's, when Robin's the one that wants the report to be looked at, I don't know what's taking so long. I can certainly ask her tomorrow, but she said when it comes back, she will release it. I mean, John can attest to that. He's asked for a freedom of information request, and she's told him outright that she does not have that back yet. Correct, John?
That's correct.
For this board,
That's illegal if she's had it and didn't release it.
yeah. For this board, we have an action on the table here. So we have there's a 21-day comment period on the latest document DEP sent out as far as the, what was it, Gary, the technical?
Administrative completeness.
So we got 21 days, not knowing exactly when it starts, but knowing that we're getting pretty close to a start date. It's public comments. It also touched base on the last comment period. The only comment was from the Charlton Board of Health. Did you see that? I didn't think that,
The only one who commented was Charlton, that's it.
I couldn't imagine that being accurate.
I think the only municipality maybe, but they should have worded it differently, because I know that other people have made comments.
So it said the only comment was the Charlton Board of Health, so minimum kudos to this board for at least voicing our opinions on that.
Is there a legal time frame, sorry to interrupt, to get that back? For Robin to get that information, is there a legal time frame, or is that, he can get that back 8 months from now?
So under a lawyer's review, I don't know where, I wouldn't even know where to begin on that. I don't know.
I think he represents, for me, he represents, and I'm sure Robin wants it back sooner rather than later, but unless it's technically sound, I think he's checking everything as far as protection for the municipality, I would assume. And when it's come back and it's complete, it should be soon. She said it would be soon. So,
I know, I watched the video when Goby and Durant were at that meeting, and someone had requested that there be a tri-town meeting to take place. Was there a date or anything set for that? I mean, wouldn't it be nice to have a tri-town meeting where we could talk about, okay, you know, even the residents from Sturbridge submitting comments within this 21 days, as well as people that we know in Southbridge that are against the landfill? I mean, I just think that would be helpful, coming from all three towns.
You know what's talked about? Linda Kokalis is Sturbridge.
Yeah.
I talk with Linda. She calls me, especially when there's a deadline or a comment period or something. So our board and their board, we communicate pretty well. There's no problems. She may have even been the one that brought that up that night, because I know she
I
talked
think
about.
she did, yes.
Yeah, and she also talked about at least having one of these powwows with DEP and Sturbridge as well. I don't know if that's happened or not. I'm not aware of it happening yet. So.
I thought she was talking that all three towns.
She
meet.
was.
That was a really well-attended
Mhm.
meeting, and I just feel that if that message was to go out to all of these folks about submitting the comments
Mhm.
before the 21-day time period is up, which is, you know, it may be too soon, I don't know.
we have had meetings with, combined meetings that we've attended, Nelson, yourself and myself, in Sturbridge. That was, you know, Southbridge was invited also. What was it, maybe a couple, last year maybe?
Mhm.
So we have had meetings with Sturbridge and Southbridge in the past. There were a lot-
DEP was there that day.
DEP was
Yeah.
there, and there were probably 100, you know, 80 to 100 people there.
Mm.
The room was packed.
Yeah.
But how do we get that word out to the others in the other communities to get these letters going?
Well, the letters, I think that all towns have to provide a letter, but I'm not,
Where are we, yeah?
we're there, yeah,
When's Thanksgiving?
24th,
Yeah?
yeah. And we're closing the 23rd, 24th,
Closing the 23rd.
25th.
So 21 days basically if it started on the 14th.
I think it has to
Well,
be in the
no,
paper.
not until DEP gets the receipt, right?
I think it's until the residents
Yeah, it's
get the
good. Tracy was here today, she said
Residents-
it's gonna go in the paper this week.
it's gonna be close, we're within a week. So if we did it like the first week of December, I don't know if Thanksgiving, what the turnout would be with anybody, but after Thanksgiving, that first week, I would be for contacting Sturbridge, Linda, or her board, reaching out to Southbridge, and let's see if we can get that tri-community meeting, maybe as early as the first week of December, and try and catch that 21 day. And if the 21 days hasn't started yet, that's just gonna give us a little more flexibility.
Where would you like to have this meeting?
I'm open. We hosted the last one here. Maybe we can get Linda to have one in her building. If not, let's throw it on the table and see where it ends up.
Okay.
I'm flexible.
Jim, do you wanna write email, do you wanna email the other boards, Southbridge?
I'll call Jamie Terry, who's in charge,
Yeah.
like I am here, and
Okay.
speak to her and have her relay it to their board, that I reach out on behalf of the Charlton Board of Health to the Sturbridge Board of Health, requesting to have a joint meeting with all three boards, if we can possibly set that up and have it in Sturbridge after December 1st.
Yeah.
Reach out to her board. I will call Maritza and speak to Andy in
Mhm.
Southbridge and see if he's willing to participate.
And when you talk to Jamie, just throw it in there that we're trying to meet before the 21-day
Sure.
comment period is up for a little bit of time sensitivity there. And I will also try and hook up with Linda on the phone and put a bug in her ear to see if we can get her to be available or the board or whatnot. And kind of brainstorm.
Wherever you guys want.
And then how do we, say we get this to happen, whatever it is, sooner or later, if we have it before our next Board of Health meeting, how are we gonna get that opened up for the public to know when the meeting is? John, you got an email that does pretty much that